Right, everyone, welcome back. And today we're luckily joined by the new eternal featherweight champion, the man who competed on Friday night actually, and defeated Diego Pereira. Justin, it's great to sit down and chat, man. How are things now?
Yeah, good, man. Just like obviously, yeah, for Friday night, had an early flight back to New South Wales on Saturday, and then was just like straight back here to try and help out and do the stuff for Wollongong Wars, which took place on Sunday. So It was kind of just a lot of running around, straight back to it, and then here we are. It's the Monday the week after, and we're just back to normal life.
Speaking on that, man, obviously, look, first things first, we want to congratulate you, man, because it's a massive achievement and probably the biggest one of your career thus far, winning the featherweight strap. And obviously, I'm sure you're extremely proud of. As we're now sort of 3 days post fight, how are the feelings and emotions about the fight and winning the title?
I guess in a sense, like it hasn't quite, settled in or hit completely yet or fully. Like I've watched the fight back, and it's obviously got the opportunity to do that and start making some assessments and pick out on some things that I was happy with, pick out on some things that I wasn't happy with. Mm-hmm. But all in all, pretty stoked. Like I'm sure over the next couple of days it'll really sink in and it'll kind of be like I'll have that moment where I can be like, oh, holy shit, like what a year. We did it. We did everything we set out to achieve. But all in all, I was happy, man. Happy with the fight, happy with the result, obviously. And just crazy that the sort of got to compete on the last card of the year. It was a stacked card, it was a crazy card, it was entertaining from start to finish. So it made it that much better to sort of go out there and do my thing, to kind of go one like sort of hand in hand with that.
For sure.
100%.
So Justin, freestyle MMA is very quickly becoming one of the most prominent gyms in Australia with, a plethora of talent such as yourself and Volkanovski and Shannon Ross recently training there as well. Other than the quality of the training partners, what do your coaches bring to the table that makes freestyle MMA the perfect home for you as a martial artist?
I guess it comes back to sort of just the knowledge and experience that, Joe has and sort of that Alex has and how they apply that and how it sort of bounces off, one another. And then the fact that they're constantly still looking for ways to improve and learn and sort of add more knowledge to their already sort of stacked arsenal, I guess you could say. And, when they're going away for these fights, these big world title fights, and then, still sharing knowledge and training ideas and I guess game planning and all that sort of stuff with some of the other sort of high level martial artists and coaches they have sort of exposure to, you can see that all comes together, comes full circle. So then when they're, here coaching, someone like me, for example, they can sort of share the best tested and best proven knowledge in every single area that's going to sort of get the best result, and that's what sort of leads to the improvements fight to fight that I guess I've been able to show this year. It's just I guess on top of that, it's probably more so the fact that, there's no bullshitting in that area either. Like, they're not, Joe and Alex aren't here telling me just everything I want to hear. Like, oh, I'm killing it. This is great. We don't have to worry about anything. They're pretty, straight up with everything. The good criticism of like what you're doing well, what's working real well, but at the same time, where you need to step up, where you need to improve, all that sort of stuff. So I think that's what, it all works well together and it sort of just flows like clockwork. And I think, that's what you need. At the end of the day, I sort of have the simplest part of I just got to show up, listen, do my thing. And then the rest is just kind of, play out for itself. Until I actually step in there and then, I just got to like actually do it then. And then it's sort of for that, 15, 25 minutes, then it's about me actually utilizing the stuff that's been invested into me.
Yeah, 100%. Man, look, let's quickly circle back to the fight on Friday night. You were very dominated, sort of every aspect of the fight. Like I touched on earlier, very important win for your careers. Considering the loss back to Diego back in 2017, considering it was early on in your career as well. How sweet was it to avenge that loss? And what, if anything, surprised you about the fight with Diego?
Obviously now that the fight's in the bank, I guess I can open up a bit more about, that whole process, about us fighting previously, etc. When I sort of compare the two fights to one another, when I first fought Diego, it was my second pro fight. It was 3 weeks after I made my pro debut. There wasn't a big build up and months of training and stuff like that. Like I got a quick win in my debut. His opponent fell out. They called us, asked us if we wanted to fight in 2-3 weeks. I was like, yeah, cool, let's go. And got in there, just took the fight, got in there, and, there were some things that were working, things that, that were coming together quite nicely. But at the end of the day, it was like a one sort of singular approach to the game at that point. Like I was just a guy who could wrestle, that came in, that's what worked. Facing a guy who's a experienced martial art, like mixed martial artist, who could put it together, who's adept in it in every area. Ultimately, that kind of, when I look at that fight, that's where you can sort of see that play out. Like there was success early in for me, but then when he was able to make his reads, adjust and adapt, then he could utilize the other tools that he had available to, get the win. And that's sort of, so coming out of that fight, it was kind of like, that was probably where you're sitting there going, okay, there's some other things that we need to start doing. There's some other things we need to start adding. And then when I fast forward to Friday night, with this fight, obviously with being the fact that we'd fought, and like we were training partners for so long, and, we cornered each other for fights, I knew what to expect coming in there. I knew that Diego was going to be tough and resilient. I was in his corner when he fought Jack Jenkins, and it was like, it wasn't up until like midway through that fourth round until he finally, his body just couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't so much that he quit, it was just like his body quit. He had a broken leg, broken jaw, and he was still looking for ways to win and still looking for ways to keep going. So I knew he wasn't going to quit. I knew he was going to be a tough, a tough guy to sort of get out of there. But like, yeah, all in all, like you said, I think I just sort of stuck to the plan, played what was in front of me, and, it kind of, I guess that's what sort of worked well. Obviously, I was a bit surprised at the end when they read the scores and two of the judges gave it 48-47. I was pretty confident I won 4-1. The first round, I guess, he had some success in the first round as well, but I didn't really think there was enough there to sort of warrant him winning a round. But he definitely won the fifth. He came back, had some decent control, was looking for a submission, and was, trying to like sort of do that do or die, I need a finish type thing, which I'm pretty sure, his coaches would have been telling him. But yeah, I was pretty happy with how it sort of went. I just sort of took the opportunities as they presented themselves. And I think that's something that I was going to be interested to see how that sort of happens in there when you have 5 rounds. You got an extra 10 minutes. You don't need to rush to get the job done. As much as it'd be cool to get to, it would have been cool to get like a finish at some point in the fight, rushing a position, rushing a situation, and the next thing I give this guy a doorway and an opening, and he puts me away. Like, one punch, one head kick, one mistake on my behalf, and I'm out of there, and I'm sitting there wondering what happened in a fight that I was clearly winning. Yeah. So I was just listening to Joe and Eugene in the corner and in between, and they were giving me like realistic assessments of each round and situationally, even while we were fighting in the rounds. I was getting a realistic sort of dialogue from the two of them on what's happening, what's working, what they want me to do, what they don't want me to do. And I think, it played out well. Like obviously in that 5th round, he got to that position with 2 minutes left. And as much as I could sit there and try and improve my position and put myself at risk, I knew I was up. So I knew as long as I don't make any silly mistakes, let this guy get under my neck or something like that, I'd be pretty good to come out of there on the other end and then get the result. And I think, that's something that sometimes you see it a lot, right? Like if you look at Diego's last fight against Philpott, he was absolutely killing it. And then he, made that one mistake, Diego capitalized and put him away. I'm in a situation where I got this guy who's got a hook in. He's trying to look for a choke. He's in a pretty good position. If I, lapsed a little bit or got a bit overzealous, he's going to get under my neck. The adrenaline's going to be gone, and he might choke me to sleep. So I think I just had to be disciplined and kind of just ride it out. So, but yeah, like I said, I was pretty confident that I'd won 4 rounds up until that point.
Yeah, for sure. So, Justin, Eternal has very quickly become, the foremost organization here in Australia. Can you see the growth of Eternal reaching the point where, they're selling out the major stadiums across the country and they start to get more of that international recognition in MMA? Yeah,
100%. And I think it's crazy if you look at well, at least for me, when I look back at what he says, when I first fought for Eternal, it was like back at Eternal 26, and then you look at where they're up to now and what they've been able to do, and how many people have gone on to sort of bigger, better opportunities that are fought on Eternal. Everything's tracking the right way, and I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to start. You might see Eternal continue to sort of rise in the level of production that they're doing. Obviously the fight cards, all that sort of stuff, the venues, everything's just going to keep improving. And you're seeing some of these really talented amateurs come through, and eventually those people are going to be, hopefully go on to join the pro ranks. You start filling out these divisions a bit more. You start putting out, these bigger cards and or maybe even like all pro cards, that you're stacking from top to bottom. And then, people are just going to start getting more involved, more invested, and it's just going to keep getting better. I can definitely see that happening. I mean, it's been crazy to see how much it's improved and how much it's changed from when I first fought to now. And then, obviously, like on this card, just seeing the level of, like, I see the level of the talent that was on display, and then, how the sort of the show round, like is run, how it all plays out, how the athletes are treated, like. It's all positives, man. It's all going the right way. So it's for sure going to be something that if they just maintain, that's what's going to happen, right? If you keep the momentum going, you're going to get to that next level.
Yeah. Well, I will add one quick thing too. I think they did a wonderful job actually promoting your fight with Diego. There was really good promos as well on social media and that sort of stuff. It really hyped it up really well. So I think that's another thing they're doing really well is the promotion side. They're really killing it in that way. But look, next one, man, I want to quickly just ask you, look, 4-fight win streak, and obviously, you claim the belt that is now that was once held by the man who is making his debut in February, Jack Jenkins, and I can imagine that for you, the UFC is the end goal for you. What is your future plans now? Whether it be the Eternal card in February, and sort of how long do you think till we see you get your shot in UFC, whether that's a debut on a card or a contender series fight.
Looking at the landscape, like obviously for me now, the focus would be to just sort of, be in the gym, stay in shape, be doing whatever I can to help Alex with his prep for Feb, and then, hopefully, I'd like to compete on that Eternal card in February, especially, with the UFC taking place the next day. It's going to be, be a big weekend to be part of any sort of mixed martial arts. And, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on you and stuff like that. So obviously that'll be the focus. For me, I'll sit down with Joe on that and sort of look at what we got, what options we got. But, that'll be the thing. Yeah, for sure. I want to get on that card. And then, I think, a good fight, a good win on a card that takes place the night before a UFC event with all the eyeballs on you, on like a fight weekend like that, as they're calling it, that's gonna sort of propel you forward in a massive way. So I think that's gonna set you up for stuff like maybe the contender series or maybe it's a straight fight on another card after that or something. If ever there's a weekend or a fight or an opportunity where you could like really go out there and do one of those sort of statement performances, that'd be the one that you want to be on.
For sure. So, Justin, as the world is, pretty much back to something resembling normal, are there any coaches or gyms, around the world in particular that you'd like to drop in and train at or train with?
I mean, now that, things are sort of getting back to normal a little bit, for sure, I'd like to, pop into a few different places. There'd be a few places I'd like to sort of pop over and get some work in and train with a few people. If I were to sort of go to America, I'd like to go to somewhere like AKA eventually, not now, obviously, because, we're sort of going up against them, but,
conflicting interests.
In the future, if I was ever in San Diego and had the opportunity to pop in there and train and do some work with some people, that'd be pretty cool. Obviously, now that, like you said, the travel's open, it'd be, a case of wherever I could get to with and train with sort of other high-level, like-minded individuals that are, pursuing the same thing. I'm going to do that. Obviously, city kickboxing, that's always an option. That'd be another one that I'd sort of kind of, relish at sort of going to and doing work with a bunch of people. Obviously, I've been fortunate, being based at Freestyle, I've gotten to work with a few of the guys from there, and obviously, dealt with Eugene and the team a bit now. And so that's always really, really, really cool. But yeah, any opportunity to train with anyone that's involved in MMA and sort of any combat sport at a high level is something that I'm going to just, rise to and be like, okay, let's do that. But for sure, if I, down the line, if I got the opportunity to go to sort of somewhere like AKA or, TriStar, something like that, and sort of share the mats with some of the high level sort of individuals you got there, then, I'd be loving that.
Yeah, Justin, look, man, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention your fellow teammate and the bloke who's currently on the bulk, Alexander Volkanovski. Obviously, he looks like he's in full swing of things for preparation for Islam Makhachev in February. We spoke to Shannon Ross, a few weeks ago and asked his thoughts, and I want to get yours as well as someone who's spent, a little bit more time with Volk over the years. How is he looking both physically and mentally, heading into this fight? And what is your honest assessment of how this fight plays out?
He seems to be, leveling up again and leveling up some more. And, that's a scary thought. And obviously, he's already a motivated guy and just motivated to sort of keep going and achieving what he wants to achieve and just keep sticking to the grind. But it seems like there's an extra bit of heat on that one, on this one now, being what's at stake in that. And then that's, scary in itself, because I'm like, man, like, how much better is this guy going to get?
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to see when it actually plays out? But in terms of the fight, man, I think the separation in wrestling is a lot smaller than people think. I guess people have this sort of, this outlook that Islam's like vastly ahead in that area. Don't get me wrong. He's a ridiculously good wrestler and grappler and martial artist just as a whole, but the separation in skill and ability in wrestling is, it's not that much. Whereas on the feet, it's vastly different. Like, I keep seeing Khabib and people talking about, 5-6 months or this, or, you could have like 6 months and that's not enough time. You need years to prepare for the level of wrestling and grappling that someone like Islam has. But, Volk's been wrestling and grappling for years as well, as part of his sort of run through the sport. So it's not like he's never wrestled, never grappled, and only had, like to get in there and do his work in the striking, and now he's got to fight this guy. Whereas Islam has never, ever, ever had to deal with someone like him. His distance management, his fight IQ, the tools and stuff that he presents on the feet, the separation of skill is vastly, vastly bigger in that area. And I feel like once Islam's in front of him and, he starts getting tagged a bit and Volk starts, making the takedowns harder to set up, or starts getting up or shutting them down, or, and starts landing, you've seen what happens if that guy starts making his reads and using the time that he has each round to do his work, which he's very, very good at. He knows he's got 25 minutes. He knows how long in each round he has to do his work. He starts making his reads. And then as it goes, he just gets better and better and better. And eventually he's got an answer for everything that you're doing. And then, obviously then you start seeing what happened. Like, you look at what happened with Max, you look at what happened with Ortega, you look at what happened with Zombie. Like, eventually he figures out what you're presenting, he shuts it down, and then he starts beating the fuck out of you. And like, that's just what sort of, I see this being no different. Like, don't get me wrong, early on, I see it being competitive, and I see Islam presenting some challenges. I see him getting a few takedowns, but I feel like the second that bell goes and that they're coming out for a third round, fourth round, he's just going to start melting, and then he's just going to get the shit beat out of him. And then, I'm pretty confident Volk will put him away.
Yeah,
for sure. So, Justin, look, final question from us, man, because we really appreciate your time. We don't want to keep you too long, but I want to ask, what lessons have you been able to take from both training and competing in the sport that you've been able to apply to your life outside of the cage and outside of training?
Probably the biggest thing would just be, I guess, the resilience to keep pushing forward, regardless of the outcome of any situation. I think that's something that's really good in both the training and competing side of things. And you can just sort of apply that to anything moving forward, whether you're dealing with just sort of day-to-day little challenges. It could be something as simple just like, you got stuck in traffic, you're late for to be somewhere, and it'd be so easy to get stressed about it. But you can always just sit there and go, oh well, it could be worse. I could be on the bottom, getting my head punched in by someone, in front of like everyone that I care about. So there's that sort of stuff translates well. But I mean, and then on the opposite end of that, it kind of when there's those bigger challenges or those biggest sort of things that life presents that sort of rock you, it's the same way. You can sort of find a way to cope with it and deal with it. But I think, even that's probably something that I see daily that you can sort of apply to. But the biggest thing I'm taking out of it, like competing and fighting, is it's something I'm very, very passionate about. It's the thing that I want to, pursue and take to that level and, keep achieving all my goals, because I want to do that for myself. Like I have my own sort of selfish reasons for wanting to do that. But, I know that I'm setting an example for my daughter. Like I said it on the night, I don't care what it is that she's going to pursue one day or what she wants to do. But if you find something that you want to go after, I want her to know that you can. You just do it. You just keep doing it and you stick to it, and eventually you're going to get there and you're going to figure out, how to do the things that you want to do. Because I know that, that like, and especially if, moving forward for me, I want to keep doing that because I know that there's bigger things at stake, right? Obviously, it's cool to go and do these things and compete and win and fight and do all that, but I know that I'm like, the way I carry myself is sort of going to affect that little human that sort of looks up to me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, Justin, man, thank you very much for your time and giving us some of your thoughts today. We really appreciate it. Enjoy your holidays, man. Maybe move up a weight class over Christmas. Who knows? And we'd love to talk to you again in future, man.
No, man, I appreciate it. I always like having a chat. I always like talking about anything, anything relating to the sport, and that sort of happens. But as far as me sort of, I guess, getting to eat myself to death and stuff like that over Christmas, I think that's going to go out the window, because if I get a bit too heavy, I think Volko's just going to bash me more. So I think I'll try my best to stay a featherweight.
Yeah, 100%. Justin, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, man.
Thanks very much, man.